Arvind Narrain, as an advocate and author of Queer, a book which looks at the challenges which the LGBTQ community has faced, do you believe today is a huge setback from which the community will struggle to recover? Are you hopeful that Parliament in particular, which has been given an opportunity now, and state governments will pass legislation? Or is this a subject that many don't want to touch?
I think a little bit of a context. The last battle we had took 17 years, the question of decriminalization. The marriage debate has been on for only 3 years. So I see this as a bit of a long-term process, and we will finally get there. I agree with Satvik on that particular point. And in terms of, if you think of what Martin Luther King had to say, if the arc of the moral universe may be long, but it bends towards justice. That is our hope. That's the direction in which we see things going. Even on the particular thing of this particular judgment itself, even if you go to the Justice Chandrachud's judgment and Anand Grover's articulation of the recognition of the right to intimate association under Article 19C, that's an important step forward. And again, he had one other judge with him. What we missed is the third judge. So my point is simply this. At this current moment, on the question of adoption, on the question of the recognition of the right of relationship or the civil unions, the opinion was a minority opinion. But the minority opinion is not always a minority opinion. I'd like just to remind you of the opinion of, in ADM Jabalpur, Justice Khanna's very, very important dissent, where the point that he made, a dissent in a court of last appeal is the appeal to the brooding spirit of the law and to the intelligence of a future day. We're convinced that the intelligence of the future day will arrive, and we're convinced that at this current moment, the idea of marriage equality is at best, in the words of a very, very well-known gay poet, Langston Hughes, it's only a dreamed effort. We will arrive at that day sooner rather than later.
I'll come to you again in a moment, or to all of you. Mahesh Jethmalani, among the questions I asked Mahesh was, do you see Parliament, you're an MP, actually acting on this? Because, you know, the fact is Parliament did not for the longest time even act on decriminalizing homosexuality. The courts had to push them. Our politicians are resistant to decriminalizing homosexuality, almost seem to see this as a subject they don't want to enter a certain conservatism. And are they a step behind civil society then when it comes to gay rights?
Look, now let's be fair to Parliament. Since you've first taken on the Supreme Court, now as far as Parliament is concerned, it's not the end of the matter. The Supreme Court is not the end of the matter, right? While one door has been shut, Rajdeep, a second door has been opened. Right? They've called upon the union government to constitute a high-level committee. There are many interests in society. When you pass legislation, you can't be prescriptive. You have to be sensitive. The whole principle of good legislation is the greatest good, the greatest number. Right? This is a legislator's maxim. Right? So you have to take into account not just your own personal predilections on an issue, but also the opposite view. You at least got to hear them. You've got to give them natural justice.
Sure.
Now there are many interests. You know, the conservative Hindus, the All India Muslim Law Board, conservative Christians. They were all represented, and so most of the religions, organized or not, right, really had a view against. They had a very conservative view, and they were against this. Now they all have to be heard. This is a country which is teeming in religiosity. So you have to hear those parties and then take a fair view. And I think Parliament, has a broad, it has a extremely fair outlook. But don't taint all politicians with the same brush.
No, I'm not painting all politicians in the same brush, but I get the sense, Mr. Jethmalani, that Parliament appears reluctant to legislate on these contentious issues. And to that extent, are you a step behind civil society and, dare I say, other legislatures around the world?
Well, let me tell you, the Supreme Court has nudged them. By constituting that high-level committee, there's a nudge. Look into the matter. All right? So there is a nudge. Now, whether the views of parliamentarians, right, are liberal or they take the conservative view and do not break from the past is a matter. I wouldn't prejudge the issue. If now the matter is squarely in Parliament's court, as it always should have been, frankly. It is in Parliament's court. The court would be legislating had they gotten to this. So I think the Supreme Court gives a fair construction. Coming to Parliament, I think that you should give Parliament, instead of foreclosing it by saying Parliament has been a step behind. After all, Parliament's composition keeps changing. This is not going to be decided by this parliament if you think that you might get a more liberal parliament. You got now, in future, you even have 1/3 reservation for women coming up post 2026. So you may get a more sensitive parliament. So far, you haven't had one. And by the way, all politicians are not the same. The Congress government in 2013 opposed the judgment. They went into appeal and said 377 should not be decriminalized. The BJP government left it to the court. We said, look, no view when it came up for a second time, and it was reviewed. So you never know.
No, I never know, but what is the view? No, what I want to know is what is the view of Mahesh Jethmalani? Does Mahesh Jethmalani, Member of Parliament, senior lawyer, believe Parliament should legislate and allow same-sex marriages, yes or no?
My first instincts are yes, right? But to fulfill my duty as a parliamentarian, I would like to hear, if I was a member of Parliament when this bill was to come up or the proposal was to come up, right? I would like to hear all parties before I take a final decision.